Hello everyone, welcome to Come Sit at My Table. Thanks for joining us for our video today. We are going to make a dessert today that is absolutely delicious. I got this recipe in 1988 from a co-worker when we were still teaching school. Actually, it was about the 5th year that I had been teaching. That's a long time ago. But this has been a wonderful dessert that we've used a lot. If you are a fan of Mounds Candy Bars, you like coconut and chocolate and marshmallow together, you're going to love this dessert. It's really good. So let's talk about what we're going to use today to make a Mounds cake. We're going to start with a chocolate cake mix. Now, you will see that I have a Devil's Food cake mix. Yours does not have to be a Devil's Food cake mix, but I'm going to tell you why I got this. If you'll notice right here, it says it is 15 1/4 ounces. Every other brand of cake mix that I looked at was 13 1/4 ounces. So Duncan Hines has not reduced the size of their cake mix like most other companies have. So thank you, Duncan Hines, for not cheating us out of a little bit of cake mix. Even if you have to raise the prices, that's okay. So we're using a cake mix. Now listen, don't be shamed when you use a cake mix. There's nothing wrong with this. It's just a quicker way to do it rather than do homemade. And I'm going to give you 3 tips, 3 hacks that you can use to make a boxed cake mix taste homemade. So don't let somebody say to you, oh, I can't believe you're using a cake mix out of a box. There's nothing wrong with that. We live in a very busy world, and sometimes this is what you have to do. Let's talk about the back of the box. It tells you to make this cake with 1 cup of water, 3 eggs, and 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. Now, there are 3 things you can do to make this taste more like a homemade cake mix. Instead of using water, we're going to use milk. Instead of using 3 eggs, we're going to use 4. So whatever your cake mix calls for as far as eggs go, add 1 more. Just add 1 extra one. And instead of using vegetable oil, we're going to use a stick of melted butter. The same amount, it calls for 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. I have just melted 1 stick of butter, which is 1/2 cup. It's the same amount as the oil.
And yours is salted butter.
It is salted butter.
Would it make a difference if it was unsalted?
It does not. Use whatever you like. I don't buy unsalted butter. I always use salted in everything. But if you prefer unsalted butter, then you should certainly use unsalted butter. So instead of water, 3 eggs, and oil, we're using milk, 4 eggs, and butter. Now, that's all we're going to use in our cake. The cake mix, the milk, the eggs, and the butter. We're going to bake that, and when it comes out, we have to let it cool completely. Then, for the topping, we're going to mix together 3/4 cup of sugar, 3/4 cup of milk, 24 large marshmallows. I don't know why 24, but that's what the recipe says. So that's what I've always done. So we're going to put 24 marshmallows in our saucepan with the butter or with the sugar and the milk, and a 14-ounce package of sweetened coconut flakes. And we're going to cook that very slowly until the sugar dissolves and the marshmallows have melted. And then we're going to pour that over the cooled cake. When we get that on the cooled cake, we'll set it aside, and immediately we are going to melt a 12-ounce pack of chocolate chips. And I didn't have a 12-ounce pack. I had a 24-ounce pack. So I measured out 2 cups because that's about what's in a 12-ounce bag of chocolate chips. Might be just under 2 cups, but you know, a little extra chocolate never hurt anybody, right? So we're going to melt those with 1 stick of butter. And we will pour that chocolate and butter mixed together over our coconut mixture and let that set up. And when it sets up and becomes firm, we're ready to eat. Okay, so I'm just going to move all of these out of our way because those come later. And we're going to mix up our cake. Now, you could use an electric mixer, but this is so simple that I decided I'm just going to do it with a whisk. I can just stir it together pretty quickly. So I'm not going to dirty my mixer tonight. I'm just going to put this in and stir it all together. So let's get rid of our trash. Actually, you know what? I'm going to keep that box because I'm going to put my eggshells in there. So let me just...
put them in the composter.
Oh, that's right. You're right. I do need to put them in there, don't I? All right. So we're going to add our 3/4... No, was that 3/4 cup milk? I can't remember. Maybe it was a cup. Let me look. I can't remember. No, it was 3/4 cup milk.
Almost talked yourself out of it, didn't you?
I need to look on the back of the box. No, it was 1 cup. 1 cup of milk. I'm going to add my melted butter. 1 stick of melted butter. And our 4 eggs. Now, I will not break my eggs in that bowl. I know better. Because as sure as I do, I'll get a piece of shell in there. So I'm going to break them in here and add them one at a time. By the way, aren't these beautiful eggs? These were shared with us by our neighbors, Ernie and Twyla, and their daughter, Leah. And they just have beautiful, beautiful eggs. It's very simple to mix this cake mix up by hand. So if you're in a hurry and you don't want to clean up your bowl, then just throw it in a bowl and mix it together. Okay. Let's get rid of our bowl here. I'll wash my fingers. And let's stir it all together. Break up those egg yolks and start mixing. It doesn't take much elbow grease, just a little. The good thing about doing it by hand is that you really don't have to worry about over mixing it and making your cake tough. If you mix it with an electric mixer and you over mix it, sometimes it can make the cake come out pretty tough. So sometimes it's better to do things by hand. And I'm not going to kid anybody. I do like the convenience of a mixer. All right. I think that's pretty good. Now, I have preheated my oven to 350 because that's what it tells me to do on my box, and I'm just following my box directions. And I have my pan sprayed. Let me grab a spatula. I have sprayed my pan. So let's get all the cake mix out of there. We want as much of that out of there as we can get. Our old friend Ben Franklin said, "Waste not, want not." Okay. So in we go with our cake mix. You will want to kind of level it out once you get it in there. Just make sure it's in the corners really well. I really like using cake strips around the outer edge of my cake pans because it just helps your cake bake better and more evenly. Keeps the top flat so it doesn't have a hump in the middle. But for the life of me, I cannot get cake strips to work on a 9x13 pan. They work perfectly in round cake pans, but not on a 9x13. And that's because the sides of a 9x13 pan are sloped. And so the cake strips want to slide off the bottom. So instead, we just put it in there and let it bake. And if we get a hump in the middle, we just get a hump in the middle, don't we? Sometimes it just happens. Okay, so let's just even it out a little bit. Make sure it's, for the most part, even. I'm just gonna rake that off because I don't wanna waste it. And we're gonna go into our preheated oven for 26 to 31 minutes, according to the box. Now, if it says 26 to 31, I'm gonna start watching it at 26 minutes, 25 or 26, because I don't want to overbake it. If you overbake it, you're gonna have a dry, crumbly cake. So I'll set the oven for probably 25 minutes, and then I'll start checking. And the way I'll check it is to put a toothpick in the center and pull it out to see if the center is done. If it's done, the toothpick will come out clean. If it's not yet done and you pull it out, the toothpick will have cake batter on it. All right, so we're going into our preheated oven for about 25, 26 minutes, and we'll start watching it. Might take as long as 31. When this is completely baked and completely cooled, we'll come back and do the marshmallow coconut topping and then the chocolate to go on top of that. So we'll be back. It'll probably be a little while, but for you, it'll just be a few seconds. Our cake is out of the oven and it's completely cooled. So now we're ready to start cooking, actually just heating up, melting our marshmallow and coconut topping. So let's turn our stove on. I already have marshmallows in the pan. So I'm going to add our milk and our sugar. And we will add our bag of coconut, 14-ounce bag. Now it is going to take a few minutes for this to completely melt, but we just have to be patient and gently stir it and let those marshmallows completely melt.
I'd be afraid they would burn.
Well, you have to stir. They are sugar, so they will burn. And I am getting a little bit of coconut falling out of there. But if I can get this stirred up and get that coconut down in there and get it wet, it should stay okay. And it does take a while to get it melted. I don't know if we want to stay here the whole time while this melts. Are people going to be bored watching marshmallows melt?
It's slightly more exciting than grass growing, so.
Maybe. I'm not so sure about that. You do have to keep stirring it though. And it does take a while. Sometimes I just take my spoon and kind of mash the marshmallows, cut them in half a little bit. That helps them start to melt too.
Increase the surface area.
Yep. Is that physics?
Not physics, maybe.
Oh, if it's science, let's not do it. I taught science long enough.
This would be a fun science, though, like demonstration.
Hey, yeah, you want to get your kids interested in science? Get them in the kitchen. A lot of cooking is science.
Tom also does a lot of soap making, which is a lot of science.
Yeah, I love making homemade soap. I don't think we have bought a bar of soap in what, 15 years?
Probably.
Yeah. I like to make soap. And people like getting it. I used to make it and sell it, but it became more of a job than I wanted after I retired. So I quit selling it. Now I just make it for us and our kids. And sometimes give it as gifts. Yeah, it's starting to melt. Come on, marshmallows. I really do encourage you to get your kids in the kitchen. It is a skill that they will use literally for the rest of their lives. You know, there's nothing wrong with kids playing soccer and basketball and doing gymnastics. Our kids did all of that. But they won't do that for the rest of their lives. They will, however, need to eat.
And really, when they make things in the kitchen, it gives them great confidence.
It really does, doesn't it?
It's something that they can really feel good about themselves.
Exactly. And, you know, they're not always going to live at home. Well, you hope they don't. You want them to grow up and become independent. Let me turn that down just a hair. So, you know, when they leave home, whether they go off to college or they get a job and move out on their own, they need to be able to feed themselves. So, the only way for them to be able to do that is if you've taught it to them. Just like, you know, we should be teaching them how to take care of a checkbook.
Do their own laundry.
How to do their laundry. Both of our girls started doing their own laundry when they were in 4th grade. Melissa taught them how to use the washing machine and the dryer. And we didn't really even have to force them to do it. I mean, they just, once they knew how to do it, they were like, can I go in and do my laundry? And we were like, absolutely.
I think kids like to feel like that they're self-sufficient somewhat, and it gives them confidence that they can, you know, do things on their own.
That's exactly right. So get them out in the yard. Teach them to use your lawnmower. No, I'm serious.
I enjoyed that one so much.
Well, a lot of kids do.
That's true.
Yeah. Let them feel like they're helping the family. Teach them to pull their weight. Unfortunately, and being retired teachers, we saw way too much of this. Too many kids just sit in the house staring at a screen. A computer screen or a phone screen or the television screen. So, that's not good. If you've got kids or grandkids, get them in the kitchen. Teach them how to be self-sufficient.
This is looking really good.
And I'm going to say one other thing about that while I'm preaching here.
And you got to put your school teacher away.
Yeah. I don't know what I was going to say.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes, I do. Don't expect the school to teach your child everything they need to know. It's not the school's job. You're the parent. Teach them what they need to know. If you wait for somebody else to teach them everything they need to know, they may not know it.
And we're school teachers, but we can still say to parents,
okay,
will do a much better job than we will on
now, see,
lots
that didn't take too long. Now, all we're going to do is just pour this right on top of the cake. And we'll spread it out. Ooh, it's going to be full. Let's see if I have room to scrape this. I don't know if I'm going to have room for all of it, Melissa.
Cake really baked up.
Yeah, it
nice
did.
And fluffy, didn't it?
It did. Oh my goodness. This is going to be so good. Marshmallows. And coconut. And butter and milk. Yeah. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Okay. That does sound good. Now, the thing is, we can go ahead and make the chocolate topping to put right on this. But I think it will set up better if we let this cool just a few minutes. So I have done it both ways, but if you put it on now, it just kind of tends to run to the sides. So we're going to let this cool for a few minutes. as much of that off there as I can. And once it's, I'm not going to wait for it to completely cool, but once it's cooled enough that I can pour the chocolate on there and it won't just run off, we'll come back and melt the chocolate, and we have our 2 cups of chocolate chips and our stick of butter in the bowl. And I'm just going to microwave it. I used to always do it in a pan on the stove, but let me tell you, it's actually easier to microwave it than do it in a saucepan. So I've got that ready. As soon as this cools just a little bit, we'll come back and microwave this, and we'll get it on top, and then we'll let it cool, and then we get to do our favorite part, the taste test. So we'll be back. Our chocolate chips and butter have been in the microwave for about 1 minute and 20 seconds, 1 minute and 25 seconds. And we're hoping it will be thin enough that we can spread it over our cake. Let's see. So let's try to get this spread on our cake. It's a little thick, but hopefully we can get it spread out. You just need a thin layer, and it may mix in some. If it does, it just does. But we're going to try our best to get it on here. It is setting up fast. Let's try to spread it out. Now, once we get the chocolate on here, we can, if we need to, we can stick it in the refrigerator for just a few minutes. But honestly, this has set up so fast that I don't think we're even going to need to do that. It is warm though, so we may have to let it cool for just a few minutes before we cut into it. Let me see if I can get this spread over here some. I have made this cake dozens of times, and I've never seen the chocolate set up that fast. It really set up this time. But you know what? It looks delicious.
It does look good.
I will tell you all, I kind of got in a little bit of trouble after the last segment because I just didn't leave enough in that pan for somebody to scrape out.
My bowl is my specialty. There's nothing left.
She said, "Is there anything left in there for me to scrape out?" I said, "Well, not much, but a little bit." So she came over and got the pan, and she said, "You didn't leave me anything." She does like that coconut part. Need to cover that coconut up right there. Okay. Well, I'm just going to tell you that's not the prettiest job I've ever done, but that's not bad. It's going to taste delicious. Okay. So we're going to let that chocolate cool, and then we'll come back and cut it and taste a piece of it. By the way, how many of you noticed I changed clothes? Had been in those other clothes all day long, and it's 7:30 at night, so I just needed to change. All right, we're going to let that cool for a few minutes. I might even stick it in the refrigerator just to let the chocolate firm up, and then we'll be back to take a bite for you. Well, we have cut the cake, and we are ready to take a bite. You gonna take the first bite, babe?
I would love the first bite.
Okay.
Since you didn't leave me any in the bowl to lick. I have to give you a hard time.
I forgot to do a princess bite, didn't I? I always forget that.
That is so good.
What'd you say?
To quote somebody that I know.
Wow. That is delicious.
Tastes like the cake version of the candy bar.
It does. Delicious as always. All right. Thank you for watching our video. Make this for somebody you love. They'll love you even more. If you would, please go right below this video and click the thumbs up button. That just says you liked our video. And if you've not already, please click that subscribe button. That helps us build our channel. Remember that right under the video where you see the title of this recipe, if you'll click that box, it will expand and you'll find the written recipe right there that you can copy or, I don't know, copy and paste, whatever you do with it. Or you can just write it down, or it will always be there. So you don't have to even really write it down. You can just come back and find it. But it's in that description box right below the video if you click the title. Thank you for the comments that you leave on our videos. Melissa does try to respond to those, and we really do enjoy reading the nice comments that most of you leave. Also, in that description box under the recipe is our contact information if you need that. Thanks again for watching our videos. We appreciate it. We will see you on the next video, but we want you to remember that you are always welcome to come sit at my table. Happy New Year.